But in the end, it feeds a bottomless hole, which more or less just makes you a slave to a system that literally couldn't care less about you, but is only driven to make profit on cost of the human soul. Another big illusion is nationalism and countries. That's a big one. Because when you look at it, countries and nations with man-made borders, and you're born, in this place in the earth, and all of a sudden you're American or you're Mexican, German, because you were born there. You're getting this passport at birth. Nobody asked you, but you're all right away branded. You're this and that, and giving you a sort of identity which is literally based on illusions. Countries are illusions. There's no reality to it at all. It's again just been implemented to control the people, to kind of give them through identity, through identification with some sort of ideology, which has nothing reality in it at all. When you look at nature, nature doesn't really have no boundaries and national identifications or anything like that. And the problem with when you identify yourself with a nation or a country is that you separate yourself automatically just by the belief from other people who identify themselves with certain nations. And if you look into history, any war has also been based on that, on fighting for your country for a flag, you're dying for a flag, and it's made this whole corrupted idea that it's honorable to fight for your country and yada yada. But when in fact all the soldiers or anybody who fought for any nation, they're not fighting for a country, they're fighting for the elite, for certain interests. But it has nothing to do with any national pride. So, also when you consciously or even unconsciously identify with the flag or nation, you give that illusion even more power and perpetuate the whole illusion, and it feeds it all. And it's another form of control to keep people confined and separated, as I just said. So what happens if you really strip away the identity of national identification? If you stop seeing yourself as an American or Mexican or German or English or whatever, and you strip this all away, what we are left with? And basically, what we're left with is just we're all human beings. That's it. Nothing else. Like Angel just said, doesn't matter what color, whatever. We're all human beings. Screw the passport. Why do I need a passport to go to another country or work permit? It's completely ridiculous. It doesn't make sense anymore. And that's also have a little, I don't know if you heard of the New World Order. People talk about this and globalization, and the way it's coming about, it's obviously not in interest of the people because it's based on corporations and so forth. But a lot of New World Order opponents, like Alex Jones, for example, I don't know if you heard of that guy, fight the New World Order, because we need to get our country back, go to our founding fathers, the Constitution, yada yada. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. This is the whole basis of the whole illusion anyways. Why do we keep identifying ourselves with a country, It's not about taking back America. It's like, get rid of the identification completely, Obviously, we don't want to globalize in the sense like the elite is trying to really implement a new world government under the rule of more corporations and the elite, but it's in a sense globalization is a good idea if it would be based on human values and truth and really compassion. So nationalism is a big one, and Krishnamurti said patriotism in a sense is a disease. It's not helpful at all. Then food and health. With food, food is another subject on its own. But what we eat and take into your body affects our consciousness as well on some level. It affects the way we feel, affects our mood, our emotions, and so on. And there are many things that we eat that are actually poison to the body, and we're being reinforced to eat this through advertisement. And you heard of the food pyramid, which really doesn't make sense on so many levels. It's ridiculous what we take into our bodies because it really affects our health. And the body is a very amazing organism, and it can heal itself from any disease, including cancer, if you get proper nutrition, proper exercise, and so on. But then you have these things called healthcare, especially in this country, which is more like disease care, which is more concerned to keep people sick than really to make people healthy. And the fact is that the pharmaceutical industry can make money off healthy citizens. It's better to keep the population unhealthy because it's easier to control in that way, and then people who are clear-headed and healthy and can think for themselves. So all of this, boils down to official culture, how we are being imprisoned and imprisoning ourselves through official culture. And what it boils down to is we develop a certain herd mentality, where everybody is like, don't question everything, we just keep in the herd, and that's how social control comes about. And that's, you guys can read this? Yeah. Okay. So, I've been branded a conspiracy theorist many, it's like, But the funny thing is, a lot of us I know have been there for a long time, for 10, 15 years, stuff what we've gotten into and what I've talked about, a lot of people just ridiculing us and so on, but it's becoming more and more obvious, and more people are waking up to the fact that something ain't just right in paradise here, And also when somebody brings me, you're such a conspiracy theorist, there are no conspiracy theories, and I'm like, that's right, I'm not interested in conspiracy theories, only in facts and stuff you can look into yourself and research. So here's a little example of how the corporations control nearly all U.S. media, starting from 83 down to 2004, and it's in the hand of fewer and fewer corporations, which really filter the information and tell you what's going on. Here's some very amazing, profound quotes from one book called Bauer Messiniak, Bringers of the Dawn. The ultimate tyranny in a society is not controlled by martial law. It is controlled by the psychological manipulation of consciousness, through which reality is defined so that those who exist within it do not even realize that they are in prison. And that boils down to what I said before. The conditioning happens through education, mainstream media, government, where we build a view of life and worldview we take in as truth, but it's a complete illusion. And Laura Nagiajic says, What is shocking is the astonishing human capacity to tolerate beliefs that make fools of our brains. The surprising fact about human beings is that a belief doesn't have to be true in order to be believed. Most of the belief systems that generations of humans have lived by and died for are in fact patently false. Yet they were held with deep conviction and fever. Fads and fallacies, delusions and fantasies are so numerous in human history that they constitute the very fabric of our existence. Not only that, but we fight to preserve what is false. And that's how the sheep control the sheep and how we basically imprison ourselves. So what it all boils down to in general is that you're not your beliefs nor not your identifications. Whatever, when you look into what beliefs and ideas you've taken in over your lives from your upbringing, and you look a bit deeper into yourself, you realize that those are not yours. Those have been implemented to you through means of education, government, upbringing, mainstream media, through our parents as well, because they, it's a never-ending cycle until somebody, you start to question things and get out of the loop. This is an image from the movie The Matrix. Anybody seen that film? Yeah. That's one of the movies I highly, put in high standards, and it's really in a league on its own, even from an esoteric perspective, because when I first saw it had a big impression on me, but the more I got into more in the ancient teachings, Esoterica, and this whole movie has such a wealth of esoteric knowledge and symbolism, it's amazing. And right at that scene, that's where Morpheus tells Neo, the Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. You can see it when you look out of your window, when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. You are a slave like everyone else. You were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell, taste, or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. You take the blue pill, the story ends, you wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I'll show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Now the very key in this quote is when he says, unfortunately no one can be told what the Matrix is, you have to see it for yourself, and that's the very truth. Because truth cannot be spoon-fed. It needs to be really happening on an individual level where you really, or we, everybody who is interested needs to make effort and to go and to work on it, to work on oneself and truly seek truth. You know, there can be doors open, I can show certain doors here, but eventually any of you and all of us, we have to go through ourselves and really make the effort. Which brings me to, okay, the difference between what is really truth and what are lies. Well, before we answer that question, it really comes to understand the difference between objectivity and subjectivity. You know, that's a whole lecture on its own to understand true objectivity. And there's a lot of philosophers and people say, well, there's no such thing as objectivity. Everything is objective, and you can make a whole philosophical mental masturbation out of it, but it doesn't get anywhere. But you know, when you look at the ancient esoteric teachings, the whole goal was to become more objective. And it's not about being completely objective, because this is what we can't really be that in our state of existence, but to kind of strive to more and more objectivity. You know, for example, an ant is less objective as a dog. The dog, you know, also sees less than you see and what's going on in the world. So the more we raise awareness, the more we need to become objective. Because what does it really mean, you know, when we talk about evolution of consciousness, which is the times we're in, something is accelerating, you know. When we talk about the evolution of consciousness, it implies a higher state of awareness. And to become more aware implies to see things more objectively. So objectivity is based on knowledge, truth, understanding, its detachment, individuality, and the higher self, you know, beyond the ego, but something higher which we are connected to on the soul level. Subjectivity is opinions, beliefs, assumptions which a lot of people mistake sometimes for knowledge and truth, but you know, there's a big difference between that. Attachment, identification, wishful thinking, and ultimately personality, the conditioned personality, which we all dealing with to one extent or another. So it really comes down to seeking truth within and without. You cannot understand really what's going on, or you will have a limited understanding what's going on in the world if you really don't confront yourself on some level as well and seek truth within. So what all the ancient teachings have told us is really it comes down to know thyself, know yourself. And to know yourself is the ability, more, you know, the process of perceiving objective reality. And it really comes down again to self-work, as the Russian mystic Gurdjieff said. A man must first of all understand certain things. He has thousands of false ideas and false conceptions, chiefly about himself, and he must get rid of some of them before beginning to acquire anything new. Otherwise, the new will be built on a wrong foundation, and the result will be worse than before. To speak the truth is the most difficult thing in the world. The wish alone is not enough. To speak the truth, one must know what the truth is and what a lie is, and first of all in oneself. And this nobody wants to know. So, this is also one of the reasons why, for example, let's talk about 9/11, you know. I mean, look at the official story with bin Laden and two planes hitting the tower. The official story doesn't really hold any ground whatsoever. You know, it doesn't make any sense. It can't be proven. But then you think about, okay, who is behind it? Has our own government, you know, involved in the attacks, or the American government? I don't want to say our, because I don't really identify myself with any governments. But, you know, for a lot of people, for the Americans, it's hard to, you know, admit to the fact that they may have believing a lie for so long that their own government is responsible for lying to them, you know, for perpetuating into war on terror, which is completely based on lies. So for a lot of people, even unconsciously, it's hard to admit certain truths and lies out there, because they would automatically have to confront themselves. And this is a can of worms not everybody's willing to go and open, you know. As John Baines writes in The Stellar Man, based on Hermetic science, which is an ancient teaching as well, it is humbling to observe how much the human being lives in a purely fantastic or illusory, subjective personal world without ever encountering concrete and objective reality. This is explained by sapiens' dreamlike state, as each person has a world of dreams or personal fantasies corresponding to his desires or fears. Thus, to a certain extent, each person lives in his own fantasy world, imaginatively created according to his unconscious needs.